Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. And first of all, very happy Mother's Day to all of you out there. Coming at you at the conclusion of the Goodyear 400 at Darlington and the conclusion of Throwback Weekend. I am Brock Beard from lastcar.info, and this is our post-race live stream for this Sunday evening. Plenty to certainly talk about between the different divisions. I think, certainly Darlington isn't always known for having the absolute wildest finishes, but I think in terms of a lot of the races, this is why I recommend ever going to the track if you're ever able to. It was good to see as many fans out there as there were. The racing there, it's hard to really have it translate on TV because so much is happening at any one moment. So many weird tire strategies, drivers dropping off the pace, and the difference in speed. You really only get the best sense of that once you're actually there and seeing how quickly somebody closes up on somebody else. That on top of the crazy entrance to pit road. I throw this in at the very beginning because, of course, in the Cup Series finish, you think about Craven versus Busch in 2003 or other wild finishes that have happened here. But we very much had the makings of it here at the end of it between Kyle Larson and Martin Truex Jr. Spirited run by the number 5 team there at the end, which seemed quite honestly to have kind of caught Martin Truex off guard. Larson making some daring moves, including that 3 wide split there with, I believe it was Tyler Reddick and Ryan Newman at the very end there. And still closing the gap there. Unfortunately, just Truex's car was just too much for him. And, again, sometimes you'll have races that are decided by inches or a split second, and other times they're the more convincing ones like this. But I still think in finishes like this, these are the ones that make those kind of worthwhile. And quite honestly, I'm glad NASCAR let the finish play out, where some of the officiating, especially in the Xfinity and Truck Series races, was a little bit more questionable. I don't know how many other people were dropping off the pace towards the end of it. The attrition was fairly low after a lot of kind of single car incidents at the beginning of the event. But it was good to see it kind of play out in such a way that it wasn't too difficult for everybody to kind of shake out in. So, yeah, I was pretty satisfied with it, quite honestly. I thought that was a pretty compelling race to see. And also kind of, it's been so long. I know we had this track be kind of the return for the series last year after the pandemic. And, now seeing a 400-mile race there is kind of a standalone event in the schedule. It's still a very long race. You kind of forget about that since the Southern 500 has been so central on the calendar since between about 2004 and just a couple of years ago. Having multiple races there now, winning a 293-lap race here is not by any means easier. It's still just as much of a slog. Which I think makes Truex's run even more impressive. Who would have thought that, a number of different winners that we've had this year still staying about the same, with Truex now getting 3 wins this year. Now nobody with 2 wins and everybody else with just 1. Still without Harvick winning, still without Denny Hamlin winning, and, other competitors trying to find their way into the mix. Dover is one where both Hamlin and Harvick are ones that you would watch on a typical yearly basis. And I'm sure they're going to be loaded up for bear, but it could also be an instance of Truex extending his lead in the overall playoff standings, given that Truex himself is no slouch over at the Monster Mile. But we'll certainly talk about that more through the week and into next week as the Xfinity Series and Cup Series pick up from here. But a very interesting stretch of the schedule here coming up. And today, I think, was another good chapter of it in that direction. Also, the last place battle turned out to be very open and shut. Reminded very much of Ricky Stenhouse Jr.'s incident at the very beginning of the May race last year. But Eric Almirola, rather, with a very hard hit to the inside wall. Scary to see how much those cars flexed after that. And it didn't even seem like it was all that hard of a hit. But I guess, I don't know if the crumple zone in these cars is different with the Fords or the Stewart-Haas ones. But it was very interesting to see with both his and Cole Custer's how much flex there was in it. And I thought that was kind of strange. I don't know if NASCAR is going to look into that or anything. I mean, luckily, it sounds like from what I've heard that Almirola and Custer didn't have any serious injuries, were able to walk away from both accidents. But it was very shocking to see initially. You don't see a lot of at the same time, you want to make sure the car is absorbing as much of the impact as possible. And maybe the flexing of the car is very much the same as the car shedding parts and expending energy in that sense. You think of other wrecks where there wasn't a lot of damage to the car and the driver is absorbing more of it. And obviously NASCAR wants to avoid those kind of incidents. But a very quick last place battle there at the start. Almirola coming up from the back of the field there after failing inspection, was working his way up around Ricky Stenhouse Jr., and then the two of them came together off of turn two. We've seen so many bad incidents there in the sports history. I think Fox, of course, was being a little bit too liberal in showing how many times Richard Petty flipped in that scary accident he had back in the 70s. But also, if you think about the accident that ended Steve Park's career, ultimately, the wreck he had with Larry Foyt going down the straightaway. Obviously, the track was flipped around, so I guess, in that standpoint, maybe a different. Well, I guess 97 is when they flipped it, so same part of the track there for the Steve Park accident, or Tony Stewart's accident in 2002. When he ran over a slow Buckshot Jones and triggered a big accident, Jimmy Spencer and Ken Schrader and others involved in there, and that being in a spring race as well. It's a dangerous track. But that's part of the allure and part of the prestige of the drivers going for the lead. But thankfully, very low attrition in this one. Mechanical issues seem to be much more of an issue, especially with the Rick Ware Racing team. Cody Ware having a issue with the drivetrain and apparently a car that was sputtering for Bilicki. Very similar, I believe, to the problems that led to him being in last place at Kansas last week. Mechanical issues there, forcing him to the garage area twice. Cody Ware only once, but Ware actually finishing, actually falling out of the race short of the finish, where Bilicki actually looked like he finished under power at the end there. But again, we saw a race for last that seemed to go almost the entire distance back at Kansas, but today a very different scenario, at least on the Cup Series side. And Almirola already with his second last place finish of the season, his first back at Las Vegas. Certainly a difficult season for him. I had been looking at it with a little bit more of a forgiving eye, given how fast he was at Speed Weeks. But that now seems like it's been like 8 months ago now with all the struggles that team's had this year. Stewart-Haas Racing in general, I think that, they're a little bit off, but I think once Harvick wins, and it seems like he's knocking on the door just about as hard as Hamlin has, they'll be back going again. But Almirola is really kind of hitting just about everything out there that moves, and that's not been great for him, certainly so far. But an early exit, a great throwback scheme that they had there for Mark Martin's Winn-Dixie scheme. But unfortunately, we only got to see it make it around the track 5 times before he fell out in that one. Kudos also, thank you everyone for those of you who were able to join in the last car contest we had for Dave Blaney diecast and a couple of other old school bits of merch there. Congratulations, the person who won. We got, I do have that all ready to go and going to send that out this week. I hope you don't mind me mentioning you on here. James Honeycutt II, congratulations to you on that. That ended up being kind of the battle that ended up being tracked a bit more in this between Cody Ware and Josh Bilicki. Those were, I think, only about 11 drivers in the field were actually picked for the contest, which was picking the last place finisher and how many laps they were going to complete. But ultimately, it came down to 2 of those drivers, and that made it kind of interesting there towards the end. But we're getting some other questions on that we are going to be doing more contests like that going forward. I've done a couple of these in the past. I believe at Most Sport we did one with a copy of the J.D. McDuffie book. Did another one for Talladega before that. Looking forward to doing that again. I don't know when the next one's going to be, but I'm sure I'll come up with something going forward on that, especially as things get going again with the Derek Cope book. I'd like to do some more with that too. That'll actually be a tie-in with another segment a little bit later on in the show tonight. No tires, just gas. Yeah, thanks for the picture of Almirola's car there too. I'm seeing you're saying you're going to be going over to Dover. So yeah, if you get some good pictures, just like any of you out there, they're able to go to the tracks as the stands are opening up and things are kind of returning a little bit more closer to normal. We got some great pictures this weekend from Luis Torres over, who is a great supporter of the site, and I really enjoy supporting his photography as well. Sent some great stuff from the Xfinity race and the Truck Series race, shared that on the site, and the Almirola article coming up later tonight. We'll see what we have for that. But really exciting to talk about that in general here. So Wrinklestein, I saw you mentioned Chase Briscoe. Yeah, great run. This is probably the first great run that we've seen out of Briscoe this entire season, even though it was with a bit of tire strategy. But good to see him up in the top 10 for a little while there. This would certainly be one you probably expect him to do a bit better, and not only with the package being a little bit more opened up for competitions similar to the Xfinity series, but Briscoe himself having that very emotional victory last spring here. And being really consistent at this track, it was certainly good to see him up there. And also the AJ Foyt throwback, of course, getting some more attention in the same sense there. We did a throwback show back on, I think it was on Thursday, so more discussion about the paint schemes and everything, certainly from that, but we can touch on that tonight as well. Where's the handlebar mustache? I can't pull that off. I tried that last year when with all the stuff that was going on during that. I didn't like how that looked, but this ends up kind of growing a little darker than everything else anyway. So that's still kind of going. Of course, got the Jerry Nadeau shirt, like I tweeted on the Twitter this morning. This is actually it is definitely pretty wore out, but this is one I actually got back in 2001. The first shirt of his that I picked up at Sears Point that year. I don't think we even had the Holligan trailer come out our direction because, of course, in California, sometimes you don't get the same haulers out here. I have a Ricky Rudd shirt from 2000 that's even older than this that I think I've worn it on a couple shows before. But yeah, definitely wanted to bring out something a little bit more old school. Also, I didn't mention this during the show on Thursday. You may be wondering about this whole 43rd story thing on the hat and what that has to do with anything. For those of you who go way back in time with the Last Car site, this was actually the original title for the site. What I had originally done, what started the Last Car site, for a little bit of history here, is I had originally done a profile of the entire field, and I wanted to say something about every one of the 43 finishers in each race. What became very quickly apparent, even before social media, this is about 2008 or so, before like Twitter and stuff was really taking off, there'd be a lot of drivers I wouldn't have anything to write about, and I just have no notes on them. But the ones that I did always had notes on were the first place finisher and the last place finisher. And what was then called 43 stories became the 43rd story. And then by 2009, thereabouts, the rebranding went back to Last Car, and that's where we are now. So very much a throwback to this. I wore this actually at Darlington in 2019 for Throwback weekend, which at the time was our 10-year anniversary of the website. So definitely brought that back out for the throwback thing here too. And it even has the old website address too, back when it was under the brockbeard.blogspot.com address, which I think is still active. I think if you type this in, it still goes to the Last Car site. But obviously lastcar.info is now the website for that nowadays here. So a little bit of history there for you as well to tie in with the throwback theme. Thank you for the super chat there, Beast of Metal, as well. I've seen some saying the race was boring, but I think that was caused by Fox doing the bare minimum to find battles outside the top 10 again. Have to agree. And that opens up a great discussion with that actually, I think it was Mike Davis over at the Dale Jr. download opened up. Kind of shocking that they didn't show Dale Jr.'s lap during the pre-race at the Xfinity race. I tuned into that late, so I didn't notice. But apparently, I mean, it's kind of strange for them to, what gets shown and what doesn't. That seems to be one of many running themes that always shows up in the show here that we talk about. And I'm probably going to do something more in depth on that further down the line, either in the Patreon or something beyond there. But, it's kind of reaching critical mass really across all three series, but especially in Xfinity and trucks. The coverage has kind of really slipped quite a bit. And it's especially apparent on a weekend like this where you have the throwback paint schemes and so many stories you can talk about and so many directions you can go with it, and still kind of the bare minimum done in the process there. I mentioned Mike Stefanik, the fact that he was brought up twice in passing with two different throwback schemes, and yet never mentioned the fact that he's actually no longer with us, much less the great accomplishments that he had in truck series and modifieds and everything else in between. It's a different, it's unfortunate that, there's, even with the paint schemes, it's just literally its surface value, where you would think there would be an opportunity to really remember a lot of different drivers and teams. Even today, I thought it was kind of strange to say that the Joe Weatherly throwback was described as a strange throwback, given the fact that it was the 1963 Southern 500 winner, and at one time, one of the most popular drivers in the field. Joe Weatherly is no obscure figure in the sport. Perhaps it was just the wrong word used at the time there, but I wouldn't think if I wouldn't say unusual would be the first thing that would come to mind for Joe Weatherly. He's definitely one of the founding figures in the sport. And kudos to the BJ McLeod team for putting together a really nice throwback on the 78 car this weekend, too. It's good to see some kudos sent both over to Weatherly and the original team that he ran for back then. So let's see. Got to talk about the other competitors in the field. Not a lot of surprises in the lineup in the Cup Series here. I mean, a lot of the tricky thing with Darlington, and always a double-edged thing when it comes to Throwback Weekend, is again, it's a brutal track to kind of find your way around, and a lot of drivers that can potentially get some good runs. It only takes one slip into the outside wall to kind of drop back out of contention. We saw a lot of this, especially in the Xfinity and truck race. Not so much in Cup here this time around, although Chris Buescher's name kind of stands out a little bit, even though he had that great run at Homestead earlier this year. Good to see him kind of turn things around a little bit. But a lot of the other, the cream rises to the top here. And William Byron has, again, showed himself to kind of be a constant threat this year, building on his pole position that he had at Darlington a couple years ago, continuing on with a good fourth-place finish for him. We talk about Chase Briscoe, 11th in the final running order here. Penske just being really off today. I think that was really kind of noticeable. Brad Keselowski, after starting up front, and of course, metric qualifying doesn't have any indicator about how good a team is, which is the reason we need to get qualifying back as soon as possible. I guess we're still waiting for the 600 and COTA here to have those coming up. So at least we're having some of that this year. But can't wait for that to get back to being a weekly feature here as a chance to really shake out who are the best teams and who's struggling a little bit and give people a chance to kind of get back where they need to go. Really interesting on that standpoint. Ross Chastain, an interesting tire strategy early in the race. He still finished 15th even after he lost some ground on that whole deal. Alex Bowman seemed to be bounced all over the field. Damage on both sides of his car there during a couple of different incidents, still getting in the 17th spot. But yeah, Penske well down in the order, 24th for Keselowski. Joey Logano in the 13th spot, out of contention after, I believe he had a pit road penalty at one point there that dropped him back. And Ryan Blaney was up there fighting with a couple of them. And where did he shake out? Was he still up there? I don't think he was 8th place. So he was still on the lead lap. So in a race like this, where you have one driver that's so dominant, that's definitely something better you can work with. So Blaney, best of the group there. Really liked how Justin Haley's throwback looked like with the Robert Presley car. We saw a little bit of it in the broadcast here, but in the 28th spot for him. James Davison's car at first glance kind of looked more like a Bud Moore paint job than the Dick Johnson one there. It seemed like they're going to run wider numbers, kind of like they did on William Byron's throwback, but they kind of changed it a little bit there. But sometimes these things don't translate very well. I really like Cody Ware's throwback before he dropped out, but of course, Ware showed in the 34th spot. And then Kurt Busch, Cole Custer, and Almirola rounding out the group there. We'll talk about the Xfinity and the Truck Series race as well. Plenty to talk about for that as well. So we'll see what we got going on here. Truex tearing up the rear of the car again on the burnouts. A lot of similarities to a lot of the times. There's a throwback to Furniture Row in more ways than one, perhaps. Given that car was so good, it wouldn't surprise me if and the inspectors are going to have a little bit of a challenge with that. I know that certainly given what happened in the Xfinity race yesterday, not even with the winning car, it may be kind of a longer wait here before we find out what happens at the 19. We'll probably wrap up the show before that. I don't want to make it too long on Mother's Day here if y'all are doing anything like that, but we'll certainly talk about the action here beforehand. All right. So in the Xfinity series, this was an interesting one here. Really got to say, as much as I think the Earnhardt thing is almost overplayed, which is kind of an extraordinary thing to say, given that Earnhardt's such a big figure in the history of the sport. Those top two cars looked really awesome out there. I liked, especially Allgaier's that ended up winning the race. The 2000 Tasmanian Devil Chevy Monte Carlo that he ran for the 500 that year, when he infamously came out of the car and said that Bill France would be embarrassed with the kind of racing they had out there with the terrible super speedway package they had back then. You think a lot of the packages today were bad. That race is practically unwatchable, even by today's standards. Dale Jarrett had just had the most dominant car you could even imagine. But the paint scheme was nice. Seeing that with the Noble 5 accents back when they had that on the cars, that's something they need to bring back for the Dash for Cash and Xfinity, or something with the Cup Series there. I think that always really stood out really well in the cars. And even with the modern body being what it is with the splitter and everything, I thought it translated to the new Chevy really nicely. One of the best looking cars out there, and cool to see it make it to victory lane. Jeremy Clements up to the 5th spot there at the finish. Alex Abay in 9th. Tommy Joe Martin stealing the show, getting in the top 10 in the first stage, top 5 actually, with a bit of tire strategy, getting into the 5th spot. Bounced off the wall, still came home in the 14th spot. Great to see the Rich Bickle car back out there, getting a lot more exposure than even it did back in 1999. There's a lot of old broadcasts. You just don't get to see that car that often. Kind of sadly forgotten in the sport. So I appreciate Martin's kind of bringing that back in there, where the throwback isn't necessarily the most well-known driver or car. But the fact where Rich Bickle himself is even looking to get one of the T-shirts, he's definitely doing something right in that book there. So kudos to them. Matt Jaskell, I think that was probably my, we talked about the best throwbacks in the race. I certainly liked the Josh Williams throwback there to Rusty Cruz. Unfortunately, an incident on pit road left them well back in the order in the 38th spot. But also, of course, the Mansion Motorsports entry with Matt Jaskell. Had a couple encounters with the outside wall, some tires come apart towards the end, but love seeing the pictures of them towing the car to the track on Carl Long's old late model hauler. We'll have more on Carl Long here in a little bit as well. Got a bit of news on that. Other teams that were impressive, I mean, Ryan Ellis, David Starr, Tanner Berryhill coming back to the Xfinity Series. Even though he didn't have a throwback on the car, was a throwback in himself, running in the 20th spot there. All of this, the result, however, of what looked like it was going to be a Matt Mills situation. Actually, I guess this is right where to bring up Carl Long here. Basically, after the Xfinity race, I've been delaying getting the recording done for the Carl Long video. Got the script done early last week. Couldn't really get any work done on it. Finally got started on recording that, and decided to kind of wait on writing the Matt Mills article. Of course, by the time I finished recording most of it, I ended up looking up on Twitter, and my tweets are blowing up because all of a sudden Noah Gragson gets disqualified from the 4th place finish there, and apparently something with the shock mounts, which was really kind of surprising, dropping him to the last place spot there. So it ended up being a Noah Gragson article. Again, kudos to Luis Torres for sending pictures even of Gragson's car after that news broke. So I was able to add that to the article there. Really like the pictures that he provided, and I think that'll make if you haven't seen the article, it's of course on the site now. The Cup article will be coming later tonight after the results of inspection. Matt Mills, Josh Williams, Gray Galding, and Joe Graff Jr. rounding out the bottom 5 in the Xfinity Series side. Daniel Hemrick still, looking for his first victory. 4th place run for the Red Farmer car was decent. Other drivers further back in the lineup there. Austin Cindric eliminated in the accident there at the very end, which didn't get a whole lot of attention by the broadcast. Another thing you could certainly point at. You have the point leader getting eliminated in an accident at the end, and then just kind of having an, oh, well, look at that kind of attitude about it. It's strange to me. I would think you would have to deliberately work at it to not sound excited or interested or curious about it. Maybe last year when they weren't actually at the track, I could see that being an issue if you're trying to do a broadcast from a studio. But if you're actually at the track and you see something like that, it's worth more than just a passing mention. But, again, that's kind of part of the ongoing issue that we're having with a lot of these broadcasts these days. But hopefully we're getting to a point now where things are going to kind of start turning around a little bit. One can only hope, at least. Saw in the comments there too. Brandon Brown really, went all out on the throwback there, wearing the UPS outfit and all that, and that was pretty cool there. So good to see. Much like Corey LaJoie wearing the old Alan Kowicki uniform before the race today, driving the Xerox car. So that was pretty hip. Yeah, further back in the order is unfortunate. I mean, again, when you have a lot of great throwback schemes, even for smaller teams, some of them get torn up a bit early there. Brandon Godovic, of course, and the Kyle Petty 1997 paint scheme got beat up pretty good at the beginning of that race. We mentioned Matt Jaskell with some tires coming down there. Kyle Weatherman further back in the order. Bailey Curry, 24th place, is actually kind of disappointing for Mike Harmon's team nowadays. They seem to be regularly working their way into the top 20 against Carl Long's team and JD Motorsports and a lot of those guys. Yeah, kudos to Allgaier. Great move. Much like the move that Larson put on there, trying to track down Truex today. That move by Allgaier, first getting the lead on the inside lane and then picking the outside lane and squeezing past Josh Berry. Berry being as determined as he is to make the most of his limited starts of the number 8 this year. They put on a fantastic show. Thoroughly entertained by that one. Definitely a bit more than today's race, admittedly, but really a good show there. I think all 3 series did themselves proud in terms of the competition, even if some of the officiating was a little bit more questionable. Certainly some cautions at the end that were kind of unnecessary with cars spinning and saving their cars from spins. I think it was Ryan Vargas's spin that seemed rather questionable as to why that drew a caution. Especially when you already had a restart with just a couple of laps before that. I think if Darlington's apron, it's really hard to see it on TV, but I mean, the apron is so much wider than the preferred groove. You could literally have a car spin out down to the inside like that and be well away from any kind of danger from anybody running the outside. I think that's something that maybe needs to be kind of looked at a little bit more flexibly at a track like Darlington or perhaps some other tracks where somebody can kind of break down or, be well out of the way of traffic. Especially in these incidents where you have a car spin out and actually they kind of recover it. Seems like they should be, I don't know. I mean, rewarded isn't really the best way to put it, I guess, but because, of course, the caution is going to help them get to pit road, but it just unnecessarily slows things down. And we saw long enough caution periods in Xfinity and especially in the truck series. I think the average number of laps we had on Friday was probably like about a good 5-lap jaunt, it seemed, from one moment to the next. And apparently, the third longest truck series race in the series history. Not much of a surprise given all the craziness from that. And we'll certainly talk about that as well. But Noah Gragson, your last place finisher from Saturday's race, and that leads us neatly over to Friday as well. Of course, the leading story from that one being the massive pileup between Kyle Busch Motorsports' 2 teams, including Corey Heim making his series debut. Seemed to be handling himself quite well, and this happened very late in the race. But unfortunately, the 2 KBM trucks trying to be the ones to break through, and going for 6 races in a row that they would win. That's something even KHI hadn't done, or Roush Fenway Racing, these other programs. Still couldn't quite do it. And, of course, ended up happening by them taking each other out just with a bit of a botched restart there. Was surprised we had any more than the 17 or 20 trucks that were left over at the finish to settle that thing. And much like the Daytona Infield Road Course earlier this year, just constant cautions and constant short restarts there at the end. But Sheldon Creed taking the victory in that one. Good to see Jason Leffler get mentioned, even though just like in Adam Alexander's coverage of the Xfinity race, the Vince Welch mention of Jason Leffler was left much to be desired. I mean, if this is, done in a tribute of somebody, I think more than just a cursory mention is probably something that could be called for. Quite honestly, seeing the number 2 out there, the ASC colors, kind of makes me think of Mike Wallace just as much and other competitors that had run for Jim Smith's teams over the years. But regardless, good to see that paint scheme even get a bit of a brief mention there during the race itself. Timmy Hill was the real comeback guy in the truck series race there. The fact that he had such serious damage, apparently, in the incident with Akinori Ogata and the other driver to the inside there. What was it? It was it Kraus? No, it was Gray. Tanner Gray getting collected to the inside. It looked like Hill was done for it. Had a big bit of damage there on the right side of his truck. Still got back out there. Lost a couple laps for repairs. Got both of them back and finished in the 7th spot. So outstanding move for Hill. especially given the fact that he started the race from the 26th spot. He probably passed more trucks than anybody else on Friday night. Austin Wayne Self had a good run. John Hunter Nemechek, after the earlier mentioned incident, still getting an 8th place run. But Austin Wayne Self and Jordan Anderson rounding out the top 10 in 9th and 10th. Didn't see much of Self until the end there, but good to see the Tony Raines truck get a good showing. Jordan Anderson, of course, you think about his great runs and the close calls at Daytona. Darlington, even more demanding track in many ways. Still good to see Anderson get a good run. Ryan Reed bouncing back from the last place run with Cicerelli's team last week to get a 12th place finish. Danny Bone looked like he was going to get a top 10, ended up getting spun out in the 18th spot there for the finish for him. Parker Kligerman, Stuart Friesen also were battling for a top 10 spot, ended up taking each other out after a right front tire failure for Kligerman, and both of them eliminated there. But the last place finisher ended up being Corey Roper in the early stages, running one of two Bobby Hamilton senior throwbacks in the race. Unfortunately, the 0-4 slammed into the outside wall there. Not much left of the control arms and so forth from there. Couldn't even steer the truck into the garage area. They had to get a wrecker out there to get him back, much like Matt Mills in the Saturday race. But good throwback schemes. I think the Truck Series Xfinity Series actually kind of outshone the Cup Series in many respects with how good the fields look. Although the Cup Series still had some of the best ones between the Xerox car for LaJoie and a couple of the other ones there in the field there. But wild Truck Series race. Good to see Eric Darnell up there in the mix. Ended up 17th at the finish. Certainly good to see him back in the Truck Series again, and no less than one of his old school paint schemes. We'll see what happens with the 45 going forward. That's kind of one of the big question marks here. Now with Brett Moffitt switching to Xfinity Series points, what's going to happen with that team? Hopefully something works out on the sponsorship angle there as well, of course. I know there was already been a bit of controversy over Sheldon Creed's response to Marcus Lemonis's tweets about supporting the team and how far $15,000 goes. Obviously, with a team like Norm Bennings, who struggled mightily during that race, it goes an even greater distance than maybe with some of these other teams. But then that does, as a lot of the discussions came up, raise the question of how much money does need to be spent on a Truck Series team versus these other divisions as well. Especially for the Truck Series being as much of an entry-level division for National Touring Series, competing against guys like that. Really hated to see Bennings struggle as much as he did in this race. He was right in the middle of the track there, trying to get out of the way of the leaders. The leaders ended up splitting him there and caused a lead change there on the backstretch. Luckily, nobody actually wrecked or anything. But once again, just like at Kansas, if I remember correctly, Benning getting black flagged for not maintaining minimum speed and getting parked during the race was an unfortunate turn of the events for the number 6 team. I know there's a lot of splits about if teams like that should be out there. Benning himself was very critical of the minimum speed rule and being enforced, particularly towards him and not so much towards Jennifer Jo Cobb and others out there. He seemed insistent that Cobb was running off the pace as well. There were a couple times in that race that it looked like Cobb was running even slower laps, but I had basically the official radio on the entire time, and I don't even remember them actually trying to get Cobb to pick up her speed. So I think there may be something to that. And also the thing I thought was really interesting, and I followed up with the team on this, when Benning was saying that he was being told to run the inside lane, which obviously, that used to be the preferred line at Darlington years and years ago before the groove ended up being, the old breakdown lane on the banking. You just can't run fast enough speeds in that lane. And that was really leading to it as much as possible. If you're running a fast truck down there, I'm sure you'd probably be warned by NASCAR not to keep up the minimum speed. But if you're running a slow truck, you're really going to be struggling. You think back to the Andy Hillenberg video it did for Rise of the Field Fillers. Hillenberg was trying to run the high lane in that one and was getting run over by Tony Stewart. That's one situation. But if Benning is keeping his truck as out of the way as much as possible, but still not being able to reach minimum speed, maybe that's something that needs to be kind of looked at a little bit more critically, at least from one track to the next. Certainly on ovals, it's more critical, than on road courses, and concrete tracks or tracks with narrow grooves even more critically. I've seen, at least from following the back of the field, it seems like concrete tracks are the ones where NASCAR is really clamping down on teams not keeping up minimum speed. Bristol and Dover have seen many instances the last couple of years. If you look at a lot of the race results, especially in trucks, you'll see a lot of teams just parked in the early laps for not maintaining minimum speed, and it just happening that quickly. Perhaps just because the lap times themselves are so fast, and you can go multiple laps down so quickly in a race. I'll be very interested to see if this is going to translate over to Nashville. Even though it's a much bigger track, still the concrete surface. Are we going to see a greater instance of drivers and teams actually dropping out or being black flagged for not maintaining minimum speed? I guess, are we running all 3 series that week? I guess we are. That'll be certainly something to kind of keep an eye on here next month. Let's see. Yeah, practice and qualifying. I mean, again, practice and qualifying need to really kind of work something out there to kind of get back into the mix again. Let's see. RD Fox 76. You like the 11 throwback last year? You thinking about the Cale Yarborough Federal Express thing? That was pretty hip. But yeah. Let's see. Yeah, Timmy Hill's truck was pretty sweet. Yeah, I mean, there was, again, really good throwbacks, and really good, throwbacks to a lot of different teams that didn't get, or teams or drivers that don't get as much attention. Again, the Kenny Irwin throwback for Timmy Hill, and even the Joe Weatherly one with BJ McLeod kind of fall in that same category, at least by modern standards these days. So there we go. Jay Reese, thank you for the compliment on the channel there. Again, it's really. Oh my goodness, talk about Andy Houston. There we go. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I mean, I didn't even think about the truck series. I mean, old Jim Smith's team, that number 2, that ASE truck, that was an absolute terror through all of those. But if I had to pick, I guess this is really the kind of follow up from last Thursday's show. If I had to pick one favorite throwback from the entire weekend. I kind of mentioned my favorites from each division back on Thursday. Boy, I might actually go with the Justin Allgaier one. I mean, I know that doesn't sound like something I would ordinarily pick because I really, there's a lot of really good ones there. I mean, I was really struck by how nicely that translated onto the car itself. It's one thing if you see the renders and everything, and then how well it translates onto the car. Sometimes it doesn't work as well. But see, from there, I kind of start thinking about a whole lot of other ones. Think about Justin Haley's Robert Presley one, or the Darrell Waltrip Busch Series throwback that Cody Ware ran, or all the different ones in the Truck Series, and the Rusty Cruz one and everything. Certainly different ones to kind of look at there. But yeah, probably Allgaier's. I just thought it just looked just so nice. It was just, and of course the fact that it won, I mean, certainly helps in that standpoint too. So, but it's not by much. I mean, there's ones in the other divisions. I mean, right there, I think the Mansion Motorsports one, I mean, that one looked just so nice with Matt Jaskell there. And it's certainly more, it's even more colorful than Allgaier's. I have a hard time. If I saw both of them on the shelf as a diecast, I would pick up both of them for sure. I just don't know which one I would grab for first. I'd probably go for the 13 first, and maybe that would be the indicator right there. If in some alternate universe, especially with the different colored rims and kind of going back into that, that was certainly a big thing here too. So, yeah. But certainly, again, big thing for this weekend. Really enjoyed the throwback weekend. But yeah, again, kind of behind the scenes here, got the recording for the script done for the Carl Long video. I got most of it done. I was just exhausted. I think I did about 4 hours of recording yesterday because I was kind of splitting in a lot of clips, kind of starting and stopping. Program crashed a couple times, got it to get back going again. It's running much better on the computer, so I'm glad we upgraded here versus the Hillenberg video. It's come together much quicker, which hopefully should help the production schedule here of this and future episodes. But it turned out to be a real monster in terms of length. I finished the recording today, and let me pull it up on my phone because I got a picture of it here. I'll probably tweet this here as well if I make sure the thing's going to actually turn on here. Where is it? I have the actual length of the thing here. Yeah, so with the clips, with the interviews, the clips, and everything else dropped in after having recorded the script, the timeline of the video came out at 2 hours and 46 minutes. I don't think the final product is going to be quite that long for episode 7 of Rise of the Field Fillers. But know that whatever video is going to come out the other end of this, there's 2 hours and 46 minutes of material on Carl Long. That should give you an idea of how comprehensive this one's going to be. I think it's certainly going to be longer even than the Shelmerdine and the Morgan Shepherd ones, which I didn't think was going to be possible. And even the Hillenberg one there too. But this is the challenge, certainly, with talking about a video like that. 2 parts, Robbie Burns. I thought about that. I'm not sure. Again, it depends on how it edits. If there's a natural break, maybe that'll be a way to do it. That'll be something to kind of think about there too. Yeah, maybe 2, maybe 3 parts. I mean, kind of watching a video that's gonna be that long is kind of a lot to ask, especially if every video has been like an hour so far. But we'll see. Because I still like to do the preview thing, but or the premiere thing, but maybe a couple of premieres, maybe do them on consecutive nights or something. That might be something to look into. But more information on that is going to be coming up here as we go. I'm going to start kind of rearranging, kind of tighten it up a bit. There's probably some clips that don't need to be entirely in there, but there's a lot of ones that really kind of do. So that's the tricky part there. But that'll be interesting. That'll be one to certainly talk about going forward. Let's see. Yeah, no sweat, no tires, just gas. Yeah, we'll be doing the live stream probably usual time over here, but you're feel free to tune in or watch it on replay there afterwards here. It's not meant to be appointment television, but I do appreciate those of y'all tuning in. We got a good group here today. I thought that people were going to be so exhausted from the craziness today in Darlington that we probably wouldn't have quite as many people. But we're there. We'll go ahead and jump into our trivia segment here. We'll, of course, bring out the Trivial Pursuit thing here from the late 90s, a throwback in its own right. And we'll do our show and tell segment here as well. So, again, this is the same Trivial Pursuit device from the late 90s. So the answers to the questions are going to be very much outdated in a lot of senses here. But some of them are timeless. So, we always seem to get a healthy mix of this from one group to the other. But it is by category. So, again, mention in the chats which one you'd like me to do here. Whichever one gets the most votes, we'll jump into. NASCAR, pits, teams, tracks, drivers, and the wild card. Those are the categories. NASCAR, pits, teams, tracks, drivers, and the wild card. Of course, also along the way, if anything else I haven't talked about from this weekend, or any other things for the races or anything like that I haven't talked about, definitely feel free to drop it in the chat, and we'll certainly talk about that as well. Jack Garland asking about Roush Fenway this year. I mean, yeah, I mean they seem like they're really they're solidly in there. I mean, even Buescher today and Newman are certainly a good example of that. Buescher in particular, and Newman a little bit less so. They seem to have found a real nice, stable platform where they can at least get some lead lap finishes, some top 20 finishes, even top 15s. And then if things work out just the right way, they're suddenly in the top 10 and they're contending for wins. Again, we mentioned Buescher's run at Homestead. I think they're in a good spot. They may not be the most spectacular team. They're not the top Ford one. But on a day like this where Penske Racing was struggling as much as they did, Roush was able to kind of step right in and, get, lead the group there for Ford. So certainly good for them there. Penske and Stewart-Haas. I mean, it's a stacked group on the Ford side there. But I think they're in a good spot. I think, again, I like that they're a 2-car team, that they're not doing too many cars. We've seen that, especially for Roush in particular being, a real burden at one point. Although, of course, in 2005, they were able to work that to their advantage with a 5-car lineup that was, the stuff of legends at the time. But certainly nowadays, I think if you're going to compete against other Ford teams and then everybody else, I think they have the right strategy going. And I think they're coming up to some races that they could probably really kind of capitalize on. If we're going to some of these new venues here, maybe they can pool their resources and get as competitive as they need to be. But I think today was another positive step on their progress this year. Both Ream trucks were messed up. Yeah, I mean, big hit for Ogata. I'm glad that, again, in terms of the safety features there, that there wasn't an issue with the rear of Ogata's truck or Tanner Gray's It seemed like it was like back to back, and it was going to be a big issue there. Watch a 2-hour plus video, Alexander. I might. I don't know. Maybe I'll. It would be kind of cool. Maybe I would put in like an intermission, like deliberately in the middle of the video, and then people can maybe like 2 1-hour thing. Ooh, that would be fun. Especially for a premiere, it'd be like Gone with the Wind. Like if you see a movie that's like 3 hours long and then break it up into 2 parts, I would probably rather do that than make it into 2 parts. But don't hold me to that. I might change my mind on that. It's just it's a lot of material to break in. I know I don't usually do divisional breaks in a video. I just like to kind of have the whole thing kind of flow and move forward. I mean, 3 Before February is like that. That's like a 90-minute video. So it kind of goes that way. That'll be, I'll look at it. It's going to be a while until it gets done. I mean, the recording is a huge step, but the editing is going to be another big thing, and transcribing the interviews and all that. So that's going to take a little time. But again, my goal is to get it up by the end of the month, and I think we're on schedule here. So, so hopefully that'll be pretty good. Yeah, when movies come on 2 VHS tapes. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, be able to get like a snack break or something, and that'd be kind of fun with the chat too, because then you got that open. I can mention that. But yeah. No, we're not skimping on it. That's for sure. It's going to have as much. There's probably some stuff that could go on the cutting room floor for the Carl Long episode, but it's going to have a lot in there. It's going to have a lot in there. So it's going to be good. I mean, I had a great interview with Carl a while back. I've been meaning to get to it. And this next one, the one that's coming after this too, is also an interview I've been sitting on that I've been meaning to get a video on it. And you'll see, and you'll find out which one that's going to be too. That's the other thing. So yeah. So 50 minutes to go out. Okay. So let's see. Teams, pits, wild card. Teams, wild card. Teams or drivers. Did I like the Back to the Future car? Yeah, that was fun. I thought that was cool. There you go. Watch Lawrence of Arabia. Another good example. Yeah, there we go. Intermission sponsored by Code Red. Yeah, there we go. Maybe, I don't know. There we go. Let me watch the second tape. There you go. Titanic has one of the best breaks between the two. I mean, we're going kind of off topic here, but I always like the way that Titanic broke up into, well, if you will, into 2 segments of the film, where it's after they hit the iceberg at the end of the first part. It says, "I believe you will have your headlines, Mr. Ismay," and it just cuts to black. That's perfect. They divided that perfectly. If there's a moment like that in the Carl Long video, that's a perfect break, or like a cliffhanger or something like that. That will probably be it. I probably do that. I don't know if a lot of people on YouTube do that. That would, maybe I'm giving too much away here, but because a lot of people tend to break it into 2 parts, and that would be a way to do it. But maybe if I start it early enough in the evening, like do it on a weekend or something, so nobody's like having to worry about like staying up too late on the East Coast. I'd try to schedule a little bit earlier. It's trickier during the week because I work like regular hours here on the West Coast. So anything I post during the week is going to be kind of later in the day. But we'll see. 4 each for teams and wild card. Okay. No, thank you, Beast of Metal, for keeping track of that. Wild card with 5. Okay. Wild card looks like it's pulling away. So we'll do some wild card questions here. I haven't even done the, I'm sorry, I didn't do my show and tell segment. Well, I'll do a couple questions here first for those that were waiting for that. So we'll jump into that. First wild card question, who did Jeff Gordon place a call to from Daytona's Victory Lane in 1997? Who did Jeff Gordon place a call to from Daytona's Victory Lane in 1997? Yeah, wild card for sure. Yeah. I'm really leaning towards the intermission idea, because then I could just stay in the chat or whatever, or, probably wouldn't play anything during the intermission because I don't want to have it be something where, it's like that. But yeah, I'm thinking about that. That's going to be fun. That's going to be fun to figure out. These are the kind of solutions I like to kind of find, or kind of problems I like to find solutions to. So I think that'll be one to kind of work with. All right. Who did Jeff Gordon place a call to from Daytona's Victory Lane in 1997? A lot of you got that. Is indeed Mr. Hendrick, Rick Hendrick himself. Rick Hendrick, Tim Wilson, Donald Trump, Chase Elliott, Mr. H. There you go. A lot of you got that one for sure. Bill Davis. Yeah, that would have been something. RD Fox 76. I think you were first on the button on that one. All right. Next wild card question. What NASCAR Winston Cup race director also works full-time as a UPS driver as of the late 90s? So go back in the time machine a little bit, get in the DeLorean and see this. What NASCAR Winston Cup race director also works full-time as a UPS driver? Yeah, think about it. There we go. What NASCAR Winston Cup race director also works full-time as a UPS driver? Yeah, George Clark, Michael J. Fox, John Darby, Jim Hunter, Jerry Nadeau, Mike Helton, David Hoots. What NASCAR Winston Cup race director also works full-time as a UPS driver? These days, even back then, you got to diversify. That's the way it always seems to shake out. Les Richter, Chip Weil, Mr. Hoots. The answer is indeed David Hoots. David Hoots is indeed the correct answer. Who's first on that? Yeah, softball question to lead off with. This one here, yeah, it spiked up a little bit more here. Play some music or maybe crank it up compilations. There we go. You can't have the intermission be something that people want to sit around for, because then you want to make sure people can, get a snack, use the bathroom, and all that. If it's coming to that point. But I know if I made the video like 3 hours long, that's a lot to ask, even for this series. Let's see. Certainly don't think I'm going to play that one right before the start of a race that's about to be rain delayed. That was a big gamble. I'm not entirely sure that worked with the Hillenberg video or not. It was fun to do, and luckily it was just 1 hour, so that worked out. Let's see. Alrighty, David Hoots was indeed the correct answer. Oh yeah, I was looking for who had that first. And I'm seeing Alexander Green. I think you might have been the first one on that one. Jerry Nadeau, Jim Hunter. Yeah, I think that was you. So good job, Alexander. All right, we'll do our show and tell segment after this next question here. What? Hang on. Oh, that was too easy. That's too easy. I was asking what was the name of the 50-lap race to qualify for the Winston. It's like the Winston, everybody's going to know that. Okay, this is the next question. What racing series did Jeff Bodine drive just before stock cars? What racing series did Jeff Bodine drive just before stock cars? All right. What racing series did Jeff Bodine drive just before stock cars? Okay. Levi Widener Racing, thank you for the Happy Mother's Day message. Absolutely. We got some plans tonight. Gonna watch some movies with her tonight here in the theater, so that'll be fun there. So, and Happy Mother's Day to all of you as well, for sure. Again, I'm not a big fan of having the races on Mother's Day. I think that's something that NASCAR needs to reevaluate. If we're not having races on Easter, I think this would be one. Although, as much as I do like the Throwback weekend, and it was a lot to watch, just have it be another week. I don't know, work something out on that. Yeah, the movie Driven. Yeah, no, I don't think she wants to see that. Although comedies aren't so bad. Okay, we got guesses for ASA, Whelen Modified, Bobsled Tour, those car things, sprint cars, hover round division. There we go. Excellent. Titanic. We did that not too long ago. We watch a lot of we've watched a lot of Titanic documentaries, or even the movie and stuff there. But we'll pull something up. All right, and the answer is Modifieds. A lot of you got that. Modifieds, of course, that Jeff Bodine was in. The bobsled team, right on. Yeah, hold on Saturday so everybody can be back for Mother's Day. Yeah, I mean, that was fine. I mean, even when it was Kansas and it wasn't like the best race of the year, although Kansas has picked it up the last couple of years. Last week was kind of an aberration. But yeah, that would be another one there. Modifieds, a lot of you got that there. Zachary Leffler, you were like right there at the beginning there. Jesse Krill Incorporated, you were right up there too. Okay, so here we go. Let's go ahead and do throw Mama from the train. There goes another candidate. We actually watched Red Dawn yesterday, so that was an interesting choice. The old one, not the 2012 Chris Hemsworth one, but the older Patrick Swayze one. That was a lot darker than I remembered it being. But that's a yeah. I mean this shelf back here. These are DVDs back here. We got a pretty eclectic selection of films. Maybe I'll do a video someday with that. You can kind of see what we usually watch between the races here. That might be a segment for another day, or maybe another stream. Who knows? We'll do something with that. But yeah, Wolverines in the chat. Right on. Yeah, I don't know. I've only seen it twice. The first time I saw it, I thought it was really dark and it was kind of strange. But this time, maybe I was just more used to it. But yeah. Also, are there subtitles for like the dictators in those scenes, like the people that are like invading? Because we watched it and I couldn't figure out how to get the subtitle button to work while watching it, and so I had no clue what the heck any of like half the cast was saying. So I'm sure that was something that was different. I mean, they were very expressive. You could tell that like this is the scene where it's like, oh, we got to find these guys, and this is the scene where, I don't know, whatever. Spaceballs. There you go. Cliffhanger. Cliffhanger is really good. I like Cliffhanger. Is really exciting. When we saw Cliffhanger in theaters, the film came apart like right at the start of it, and it shut off, and then they gave us tickets to go back and see it like the next showing of it. So that's always got an interesting moment there. Fun movie for sure. Oh, I was gonna do this show and tell segment. That wasn't the show and tell segment. We'll do that for another one. So this is for Throwback Weekend. I wanted to kind of talk about in a lot of these segments we've done in the past year on like kind of curious things in merchandise and NASCAR history that either doesn't get made anymore or is uniquely very 1990s. A couple weeks ago, we did the thing with the Rich Bickle diecast, where you have the really teeny tiny lug nuts that you gotta try to unscrew with like an old wrench on that. That was always fun. This week, a lot of you have seen these before. You can see these in any. There's a ton of these on eBay, but it probably doesn't surprise you that I have one of these. How cool is it that they had action figures for drivers back in the early 1990s? This, of course, the driver that I'm currently writing about, Derek Cope, the 1990 Daytona 500 champion. How neat would it be, and how many do you think that they would sell if you made a, well, gosh, I mean, I guess literally, the Chase Elliott action figure from the Napa commercials when it was just the blow-up doll. What about make an actual action figure? I guess the next step would be if they had like a car that was not just 64th scale, but something that it would actually fit in. But yeah, look at that. You got an actual like Star Wars action figure kind of thing here with the mustache and the pink helmet and the blue baseball cap. These were absolutely awesome. I had this one. I had this same figure as a kid. I bought this one just recently on eBay because that the old one is just long gone. Unfortunately, the whole thing kind of comes apart pretty easily. I found out as a kid, but it was fun though. I mean, it was great. You could back then, we had like crash dummy car. Like the car would be like this big, and you could put like an action figure this big into it, and that was always fun. Toys just aren't the same these days. But a great thing. And look, it even designed the box. They got like this beautiful painting of the 10 car and pit road with the Buddy Parrott crew and everything on there. I mean, just great thing on that. And then you got the actual die cast and the trading card to go with it. I don't know what these retailed for back in the day, but I mean, just very creative. I always admire the kind of creativity with the merchandising, and this is something that needs to kind of make a comeback. Derek looks kind of plump in the suit. Yeah, there you go. Exactly. Really fun ones. I'll show you the back here too, because it shows kind of some of the other ones. You got the Richard Petty one is always good. You got the one with the cowboy hat there. So you got that whole deal. The sunglasses. I think we had the Coke and we had the Bobby Hamilton. I remember we had that one too. And I think there's like a Harry Gant one too that's not on there. And of course, the censored sponsors, the Melling branding on the Bill Elliott and the Schrader's signature on that one. But kind of interesting there. But yeah, these were always, yeah, exactly. Yeah, NASCAR Barbies, exactly. But it's interesting. Yeah, imagine if I guess the licensing back then was just a whole different world. But you got it all here. You got your action figure, you got your die cast, you got your trading card. And I was always partial to Racing Champions. I know I talked about that kind of, I guess, in our last show. But this thing is always a hoot. So yeah, if you're ever interested in these, they have a lot of them on. The great thing with a lot of old merchandise, if you're ever on any of the tracks or anything like that, you could probably find a couple of these floating around there, and there's a ton of them on eBay. I think I only spent like $10 on this one. Yeah, kudos to the definitely positive feedback review on that. And it feels even stranger now writing the biography. Of course, I haven't actually asked him about what he remembered from, like, I guess I don't know if I guess had to consult with him about like his likeness or something like that to make it, or if I don't know how that goes. I mean, it's not every day you meet somebody that has an action figure made of them, so I guess that's kind of the thing too. So yeah, definitely wanted to bring that up for Throwback Weekend here. And of course, with the 10 car in last place, I guess that's pretty well timed as well. But always really cool on that. Yeah, also Bill Elliott one. Yeah, exactly. NASCAR driver Barbies. That would be that kind of thing. Oh, Rapco, you're saying Jerry Nadeau's your uncle? All right on. Kudos. I did a project with Jerry. I don't know if he mentioned it, but I mean, he did a nice interview with me a couple of years ago after I did a video on him. And yeah, certainly go way back pulling for the 25 team and him, even with the Melling team. And of course, the famous Elliott Marino Motorsports entry. Did they have a Dale Earnhardt of those? I don't remember that. But yeah. Yeah, early 90s Racing Champions. Always surprised what turns up. We have a local store down in our neck of the woods here that had a couple. They always have like loose die cast that way too. That's always interesting. Whitcomb Racing diecast. There you go. Yeah, no, exactly. So okay, so we'll do a couple more trivia questions here for tonight, and then oh gosh, you got 73 people here. Okay, well, thank you so much for tuning in, folks. I know you have many choices when it comes to not only Mother's Day entertainment, but live streams after a race. Those of you just jumping in here, if you're new, feel free to ask any questions about the race. We already kind of covered the Cup, Xfinity, and Truck Series, did a few trivia questions in our show and tell segment. But for those, we'll certainly do another show for our Dover show. I guess next week is Dover, so that'll be one there too. Another one, the Derek Cope one back in 1990 for that too. But let's do a couple more questions here in the meantime. All right. What driver is married to an accomplished race car driver named Robin? What driver is married to an accomplished race car driver named Robin? Yeah, I think with Eric McClure, I haven't heard anything new on that. Is anybody else on that? I have not heard anything else on the end with what happened last week. I was a little disappointed that we didn't. I like that a lot of the teams were showing decals honoring Eric McClure on the cars, and I thought that there was going to be a last minute throwback in there, but I don't know. What the broadcast talked a lot about. Talked a lot about Eric McClure, but I know they had a segment earlier on. Do I like dirt racing? Oh, absolutely. Actually, our local, we moved from one place that had a local dirt track to another one that also did about the same distance apart. So, really enjoyed it. I don't do it every week. I'm pretty much glued to the NASCAR schedule, and so unfortunately, that's why I like that. They often need to start freeing up these night races and just do more of them during the day, because then you can support local dirt track racing, and it's important to do so. I know Dave Moody and a lot of his friends over there in the radio department there were at their local track, and that was good to see. So certainly good to do. You never know who's going to turn up either, and certainly even the last place battles are particularly intense. So I'm definitely down for that. Love the World of Outlaws too, especially the qualifying session. I always found that to be the most riveting part of the event. Haven't done that in a few years, but maybe that'll be something further down the line for that. Yeah, nothing. Yeah, I haven't heard anything about from. Goodness, I saw the last video that Eric McClure posted. That was just gut wrenching on that. But yeah. What driver is married to an accomplished race car driver named Robin? I was cracking up because somebody was saying Batman, and I was just like, what the heck? Yeah, what driver is married to an accomplished race car driver named Robin? Yeah, okay. A couple wise guys here with the Batman guess here. Wally Dallenbach, Carl Edwards. Let's see. So forth here. The Powerpuff Girls. Meow. Andre Burakovsky. Baskin Robin. Yeah, there he goes. This is tricky. Have I heard of Sharon Speedway? I think I did from talking with Stan Hoover. That's in Ohio, isn't it? I'm not entirely sure. Okay, Brapco. Yeah, that's the first time hearing that Brapco, but I hope that's the case. But that's still, yeah, that's a tough one. What driver is married to an accomplished race car driver named Robin? The answer is indeed Wally Dallenbach. A lot of you got that. Did we have that one before? Maybe we did. We're asking for more train videos, no tires, just gas. My goodness. I think you're about the only one requesting those. Preview for Dover, again, as I kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, watch for Truex to just completely take off these next couple of weeks. Think about these next three venues in particular. You got Dover, where Truex has won his first Cup Series race and won a couple since then. You got the Coca-Cola 600, where he led the most laps of anybody and has won it a couple times there. And you also got Coda in between those two, a new race on a road course where, he's of course been as good as he's been on any of these road courses, new or old. I mean, heck, when he comes up here to Sears Point in the race after the 600, he's going to try to win it, 3 years in a row? If you don't, of course, count in 2020, but 3 years they've run it in a row. I think it's potentially we got to watch for him to really take off. And I think today was a real warning shot to the rest of the field. Despite the number of winners we've had, he's got a real chance to really hit the ground, not just running, but sprinting. And guys like Kevin Harvick and Denny Hamlin haven't won yet. They might end up having to wait a little bit longer if he really heats up. So, it's going to be something to see. It's going to be something to see. Now, I can imagine Hamlin and Harvick and Chase Elliott, I'm looking at the diecast I have lined up for the point standings here, are going to stay winless for as long as they have. But again, you can have somebody not win the entire year and point their way in and, pull a Tony Stewart or something from 2011, even though they didn't have the elimination rounds back then, but at least be able to capitalize on it. That's going to be interesting. But yeah, I would watch for Truex to stay hot and be, even tougher than he's been already. With 3 wins already, that should be a very scary thing for the rest of the field. So yeah, as to the Xfinity series, and I guess it's Xfinity and Cup next week, right? We don't have trucks in Dover, at least not this year or not this week. That'll be something to see. Oh, you love HO scale trains? HO is cool. My brother likes N scale. He's really good with that. He hasn't done a lot with that lately, but definitely the smaller ones. HO is cool, but it seems like it's hard to set up a good layout for that. The Marty Robbins scheme, glad to see there's a lot of mentions of that in the broadcast. What size trains? Yeah, I got some videos I used to live near wonderful little waterfront district that had some railroad tracks by there. And I always remember going down there to read, and you would just listen to trains come by. I always had a lot of fast freight trains come through there. And so I videotaped some of that before we moved. And that's up actually on the YouTube channel, this same channel here. There's a train video section at the very bottom of the page. So if you're into that, I definitely got it. Let's see. Oh, okay. That's the same question. I almost read the same one. Let's get to the next one here. What animals, here we go, animal question. What animals is Junior Johnson most passionate about hunting? Okay, well, maybe not an animal lover question, but what animals is Junior Johnson most passionate about hunting? Chase's pit crew is garbage. He doesn't have a long run speed this year. We'll see. We'll see. Also have a train live cam CVS. There we go. Those are always fun. I always found those very soothing. You can kind of watch those in the background. We don't really have the place we moved to now. We don't have as many. I'm sure. Well, they have a lot of former industry with railroads, but you don't see as much of it out here. At least not as it was back in our old place in Antioch. But that's something we're still kind of looking at. Here and there. I'm sure there's probably a spot you can find around here, but you got to drive a little further to it. Most dangerous animal of them all. Mopar engineers, turkey, deer, raccoon. You watched the Throwback race today? Absolutely. Worthless Pieces of F Incorporated. Yeah, Melling did have a Powerpuff Girls car. Yeah, that was fun. Always enjoyed that show. All right. What animals is Junior Johnson most passionate about hunting? The answer is indeed raccoons. Raccoons. Somebody got that. I know somebody got that. Not bunnies, not pigs, not bears, not deer, as Coaster Cody 80 official said. Where was it? There you go. I see Zach Schoeneman. Looks like you got it. Or Schoeneman? Schoeneman. I think I got that. I apologize if I butchered that. Yeah. But Zach, you got it, man. There you go. And not ooh. It's not ooh or the letter E. That's for the super speedways. Okay. Let's see what we got here. Let's see. Here we go. Okay, next question. Here's a career earnings question. Who was the first stock car driver to pass $200,000 in career winnings? Who was the first stock car driver to pass $200,000 in career earnings? Don't look it up. Go ahead and try to guess. It's like Shanaman. Shanaman. Okay, right on. You do track and field to set the lineup. Yeah, there we go. All right. Who was the first stock car driver to pass $200,000 in career winnings? We got guesses for Richard Petty, Fred Lorenzen, David Pearson, sounds like Petty, Fireball Roberts. Several options, several good options. Does it take on Blaney's career run at Darlington? You mean Dave Blaney's in 2003? That was exciting. He could have very easily just snookered the both of them for that one. And it's amazing given the fact that he was actually better at Atlanta a lot in his career. But that was, he was fantastic in that. A more unheralded part of the thing. There's a one angle of the finish where you can see Bush and Craven running into each other going to the finish line, and Blaney still closing on them because they were scrubbing off so much speed, just wrecking each other. If they just spun each other one direction or the other, we probably would have had a completely different outcome to that race. Maybe not, but it's hard to say. Who was the first stock car driver to pass $200,000 in career winnings? The answer is David Pearson, the Silver Fox himself. David Pearson's the correct answer. All right, Herb Thomas, Derek Cope. Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, my brother likes to say anonymous. That's why I keep saying Last Bro all the time. He doesn't really have a big online presence. I've offered it to him, but I mean, he doesn't. I kind of keep him as anonymous as I can with that. But he does help out a lot with the site. At least, when we do our trackside stuff there, sometimes he sends me pictures from the other end of the track because he usually does more of the fan related stuff versus the stuff I do with the media. So, sometimes any information we get on that, like I think when Cody Ware broke down in turn 7, he was sitting out there at Sears Point. We got some good pictures of that. So that was nice. Yeah, David Pearson is indeed the correct answer. All right. Well, we're going to wrap up here in just a little bit. I'm just going to do a couple more questions here. Let's see. All right. We'll get a little of the red here. I'm thinking about calling Anthony Alfredo Tony Sauce. I know everybody calls him Fast Pasta, and that worked for the starting grid. I'm kind of warming up to Tony Sauce. It's a little easier to say. But Anthony Alfredo is just such a wonderfully effervescent name to say, I guess, if for lack of a better word. Correct answer is always Michael Holligan. Yeah, it's right up there. What race did Bobby Allison choose to start over? What race did Bobby Allison choose for his NASCAR Winston Cup debut? Did get the right conjunction in there. What race did Bobby Allison choose for his NASCAR Winston Cup debut? Don't look it up. Go ahead and try to guess. Or fettuccine. Yeah, there you go. Tony Sauce sounds more like a mobster kind of thing. It's like, it's Tony Sauce. Tony Sauce wants to talk to you. What race did Bobby Allison, this is a terrible impersonation. What race did Bobby Allison choose for his NASCAR Winston Cup debut? There's a Harry Sauce? I didn't know that. Let's see. What race did Bobby Allison choose for his NASCAR Winston Cup debut? I guess it's for Talladega, the Wrigley 100, Oxford, Rockingham, Nashville, Gwynn Staley 400. Tony Sauce sounds like the name of the most low-end Italian restaurant chain imaginable. Yeah, they're probably need to get you pizza with some Tony Sauce. If you're going to have like what a 6-syllable name, I guess you got to break it down at least in half. But there you go. What race did Bobby Allison choose for his NASCAR Winston Cup debut? The answer is the Daytona 500. The Daytona 500 is indeed the correct answer. I don't know. Did anybody? No. You got that, Bean Boy. There you go. Talladega seems like that would be the right one. Oxford, Rebel 500, Wrigley, Nashville. Yeah, I think Bean Boy, I think you were the only one to get that one. So there you go. Must have a smoky flavor with that name, though. Yeah, probably. Yeah, I wanted to say Daytona. Yeah, Daytona 500. It's a trick question there. Sometimes people make their debuts in different places, but yeah. All righty. Okay, here's our next one. What race announcer has worked games for both the Detroit Tigers and the St. Louis Blues? What race announcer has worked games for the Detroit Tigers and the St. Louis Blues? Those of you stick and ball folks out there, should get this one. What race announcer has worked games for the Detroit Tigers and the St. Louis Blues? Eli Gold, Mike Joy, Chris Myers, Ken Squire, Betty Parsons. Several guesses. All right, no tires, just gas. You just got all the Viagra comments in here today. Ned Jarrett, Mike Joy. What race announcer has worked games for the Detroit Tigers and St. Louis Blues? What race announcer has worked games for the Detroit Tigers, the St. Louis Blues? The answer is Eli Gold. Joe Nemechek. Good old Jeff Bodine himself. Eli Gold is the correct answer. Yeah, several guesses. It could have gone any direction. A lot of you got that right away. It was like Mike Bruce. I think you were first on that one. All right. Gosh, it's only 5:30? Okay, gosh. It feels later than that somehow. That's just as well. 8:30 for those of you on the East Coast, of course. Oh, here we go. It's a good throwback question. What did Alan Kowicki name his yellow and black Quincy's Steakhouse T-Bird? What did Alan Kowicki name his yellow and black Quincy's Steakhouse T-Bird. So a lot of quickie throwbacks today. And here's definitely a good one for that. Well, we had 3 in the cup race. So there you go. Including Tony Sauce. What did Alan Kowicki name his yellow and black Quincy's Steakhouse T-Bird? You got Underbird, The Quitter, Underbird, T-Bone, Bird Steak, Medium Rare, T-Bone. Got several guesses. What did Alan Kowicki name his yellow and black Quincy Steakhouse T-Bird? I think Michael McDowell ran the throwback for this at Darlington last time we went, which was, I think it was 2019. I don't think it was 2017 the first time. But yeah, it was like right in the mix there. Coming up very close on our return to trackside coverage at Sears Point with the Texas All-Star race the week after that. Very excited to see media back in the infield, and it's really, I think it really immediately helped a lot of at least the online coverage of the event. I think the broadcast left a lot to be desired, especially with trucks and Xfinity, but good to see. Again, you mentioned Luis Torres earlier, and of course the others doing their jobs out there, so that's good to see. It's been a long haul, and a good, important step has been made. So kudos to them. What did Alan Kowicki name his yellow and black Quincy's Steakhouse T-Bird? T-Bone, Western Sizzlin', Ribeye, the Hornet, the Polish Victory Lap. Got several guesses. The answer is sirloin. Sirloin. It was indeed, a lot of you guessed like T-Bone, and that was a good guess. But it was indeed a meat-themed name, but it was sirloin. Is Coda next week? No, I believe Dover's next week, and Coda's after, I think. Am I wrong about that? Is it? I think it's, because I think they said it was around the 20th that Coda is. It's Dover, Coda, the 600, Sears Point, the All-Star race. That's like the next stretch here. So a lot of big ones here, and pretty much all of them are Martin Truex Jr. Probably going to be a factor in each one of them. And, after having the lead the way it's started this year, again, like I said, I think this could begin a very slippery slope into sudden dominance here. Things are wide open enough for it. All right, we'll just do a couple more questions here and wrap up. Let's see. Next question here. What did Smokey drive his race car home without when axed? I thought it said asked. When axed at Daytona in 1968. What did Smokey, presumably Smokey Yunick, drive his race car home without when axed at Daytona in 1968? So apparently a part was left off the car, presumably. What did Smokey drive his race car home without when axed at Daytona in 1968? We got fuel tank, fuel cell, roof, the steering wheel. Yeah, Dover, Coda, the 600. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, sirloin. Yeah, that sounds good, man. It's taken off by NASCAR because it was oversized. Mark Allen, thanks for joining on here, man. It is towards the end of the show here, but we'll be back for Dover before you know it. But you're here for just the last couple questions here. What did Smokey Yunick drive his race car home without when axed at Daytona in 1968? The answer was indeed a gas tank. A lot of you got that one. Fuel cell. You got it. Jesse Krill Incorporated. I think you were first on that one, it looks like. Your last guess was sirloin? Billy Noyes, did you get that? Oh, yeah, I did. Sirloin of beef. There you go. You got it. Right on. Were you thinking, now be honest, you're thinking sirloin of beef. You were thinking of the Looney Tunes Bugs Bunny thing where he just bludgeons the heck out of the sheriff there. Yeah, that was that immediately comes to mind to me for sure. All right. Let's see. Let's see. Well, here you go. Okay, here's a good one to wrap up for tonight on. Last question for the evening, folks. Who figured aliens must have, quote, took me up in a spaceship and straightened me out? That's actually the question. Who figured aliens must have, quote, took me up in a spaceship and straightened me out? Last question of the night. Yeah. That's a weird one. Manuel Zervakis, Darrell Waltrip, Morgan Shepard. Who figured aliens must have, quote, took me up in a spaceship and straightened me out? Last question for the evening. Yeah, I know. It sounds completely random, but it is the wild card, so it could be anything. Up to and including 98 season, apparently. So keep that in mind for sure. Who figured aliens must have took me up in a spaceship and straightened me out? I'm trying to figure the context to that. Hard to say. Do we already get a call on the inspection here? Do. Yes, thank you. Yeah, Bob Pockris 2 minutes ago. No issues in tech. Truex is the winner. Logano crew chief Paul Wolfe faces a one-race suspension for 2 loose, missing lug nuts, not safe or secure. Buescher had won, a crew chief fine. Kyle Busch, Byron, Harvick, Blaney, and Reddick cars going to R&D. So, hey, quite a lot going on there. So, okay, so Truex is the winner, which means Eric Almirola is your last place finisher. So you are getting an Almirola article tonight. So, yeah, thank you. No Tires, Just Gas for the heads up there. All right, we do have a call. Okay, so this last question tonight, who figured aliens must have, quote, took me up in a spaceship and straightened me out? The answer is Dale Earnhardt. Dale Earnhardt. Seems like that was going to be a Darrell Waltrip question, didn't it? Oh, man. Ultimate 23 Dragon. I think you switched it at the right time. Darrell Waltrip sounds too easy. I'm going to say Dale Sr. Yeah, Earnhardt. I have to know the context to this. Let's see. Seems like I think you're the only one to get it. Everybody gets DW, and I thought you guys were right. I thought, oh, okay, DW slam dunk. No, Dale Earnhardt. Milka Duno, Ernie Irvin, Boris said. Yeah, it just seemed like DW. Yeah, there you go. Ultimate 23 Dragon. You nailed it. Let's see. Dale Earnhardt. Aliens took me up in spaceship, straightened me out. Now I've just confused the Google machine here. Oh, it's got all kinds. Okay, no, that's not working. Yeah, let me get the actual quote here. Must have, okay. Took me up in a spaceship and straightened me out. Use a Boolean search here or something, because now it's just picking a bunch of ridiculous stuff out of it. Here we go. We'll put it in quotes. Oh, here we go. Oh, here we go. Here we go. I have exactly one Google result for this in September of 1997. Oh, and it's not going to let me read it. It's I need to re-sign up for this here. But it looks like from the blip here that it has to do with the after effects of his incident at Darlington in 1997. This is an article from September 30th, 1997, the San Bernardino County Sun. The excerpt says, Dale Earnhardt has been finishing stronger. I think aliens picked me up at Darlington and took me up in a spaceship and straightened me out. This is the full context of the quote. So it's interesting. So yeah, it's literally, I guess, when he lost consciousness there, and I guess he had a better stretch of races afterwards, and that's where the quote came from. Yeah, after the blackout. Yeah, after he blacked out at Darlington. Because yeah, that's the here. I'll drop the link here so you can see it. If you have a newspapers.com subscription, I need to restart mine because it's not giving me access right now. But yeah, the quote is literally, yeah, Dale Earnhardt has been finishing stronger. I think aliens picked me up at Darlington and took me up in a spaceship and straightened me out. So it's a portion of the quote. But yeah, it's good. 468 of 200. Okay, it's too many. It's beyond the character limit here. But yeah, if you Google that exact phrase, I'll just give you the Google search here. If you drop that into the old Google machine, you're going to find that out. So there you go, and that'll give you the quote there. So yeah, okay, interesting. Yeah, it seems like it's the only article that's showing up on mine. I don't know if everybody's got a different access or anything, but at least on the all page. Yeah, so I guess it's a good thing that somebody. This is the great thing with the media aspect here. If sometimes you got to really make sure to write stuff down because you're never sure if somebody else is going to have it. And every once in a while, you come across something that ends up being in the Trivial Pursuit thing. So again, with that, I'm going to go ahead and leave it on that note tonight. Again, happy Mother's Day to all of you out there and your mothers out there. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in for the show tonight. I hope you've enjoyed it. Our next show is going to be next week after Dover for the Xfinity and the Cup Series. And we'll do more show and tell and talk about the races and some more trivia questions there. In the meantime, for more content, check out lastcar.info, my website. At LastCarOnBrock is my Twitter account. Patreon.com/LastCarOnBrock is the Patreon for bonus content. In the next episode of Rise of the Field Fillers is coming together. As I mentioned, I just finished recording the script this weekend, so hopefully get that done by the end of the month is the goal before I return to trackside coverage at both Sears Point and at Texas for the All-Star race. So a lot of exciting stuff coming up here. Appreciate you all being along here for the ride. And again, more last place battles coming up. So have a great week, folks, and I'll see you all next week.